All right, you guys. So I was on Kick the other day, which is already something I never thought I'd ever admit, but somehow I ended up on Clavicular stream. And as we all know, he's been really making the rounds recently, doing interviews. He was on Piers Morgan. He also did a couple other interviews with other mainstream news networks. And so the other day, he finally sat down for an interview with Miss Pick Me Pearl Davis. So of course, I had to tune in and watch because I just cannot stand Pearl and I love to torture myself like this. And the reasons why I cannot stand Pearl were on full display throughout this entire interview. One, she's just an absolute pick me, the ultimate pick me. You can always count on her to bash women and side with men no matter what the situation is. She's constantly trying to prove that she's the cool girl. She's not like other girls. She's different, and she will gladly throw any other woman under the bus for the approval of men. It's incredibly pathetic, but her interview with Clavicular was probably genuinely one of the most awkward things I have ever seen. You could even see it on Clavicular's face the entire time while he was being interviewed. He was making faces at the camera like, are they serious right now? It was Pearl and her co-host interviewing Clavicular together because, of course, Pearl is not able to hold a conversation with any man on her own. She gets too nervous and up in her feelings, so she has to have a co-host. You would think with two interviewers, they would have had at least a single question prepared. They didn't have anything prepared. Pearl's co-host was mumbling through these questions that he kept asking over and over again. He asked the same question several times. I've done interviews before with just my friends, not even serious interviews, and I had the questions listed out, planned out, because you don't want to waste people's time. It's so disrespectful and rude and just so not self-aware of people's time. You know what I mean? You're wasting people's time just sitting there with all this dead air. Pearl was waiting for her co-host to butt in and ask some questions. Bitch, this is your channel. Aren't you the creator here? Why are you not asking questions? It was so pathetic.
Just a theory floating around.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, so what else did you have?
Doug, were you asking about GLP-1s or no?
Yeah.
The entire conversation was so painfully awkward that eventually Clavicular had to come up with some sort of excuse as to why he had to leave and end the interview. And listen, I'm not one to ever side or agree with, or I thought I would never agree with Clavicular on anything, but we all know how Pearl loves to bash women and call them whores. She constantly attacks women's looks, meanwhile looking like a sweaty horse herself. But every time she would attack, and I'm attacking her looks because she always attacks other women's looks, but every time she would attack a woman's looks, he would defend them and push back on it and say that the women that they're giving examples of are extremely good looking. And somehow Pearl managed to make Clavicular look like the sane, normal one. So today I thought it'd be fun to just, sit back and watch this whole train wreck unfold. But you know what? One more thing I forgot to mention. You know what the funniest part was? At no point did Pearl ask Clavicular what he thinks. She kept asking him his opinions on different things and opinions on different women and all these women in Hollywood. What's his opinion? And asking him to rate them. And he refused to rate them, which I'm glad because it's incredibly childish and stupid. But anyways, at no point did she ask him to rate her or give her any recommendations as far as Looksmaxing. And I mention that because that's usually the most obvious question that Clavicular gets asked by all these other interviewers on mainstream media. They always, typically end by asking him, what can I do as far as Looksmaxing? Because it's a little self-deprecating, it's a little funny.
They told me I have to ask you to give me Looksmaxing advice.
Okay. Sure. Let's think about this a little bit. Well, I would say that you're already extremely good looking.
But Pearl, on the other hand, never asked because, in my opinion, she's far too insecure to hear that answer. Her co-host even exposed her in this interview, and he said that, Pearl had recently told him that there are certain opinions that she wasn't meant to hear or something like that. So it kind of sounded like Pearl may have gotten a little bit butthurt by hearing, some recent opinions that people may have made, which I find incredibly rich coming from a woman who has literally built her entire platform on rating other women, insulting their appearances, tearing women down.
Recently, Pearl had this realization that there's certain people's opinion that she just wasn't meant to hear.
So apparently Pearl is happy to dish it out, but the second there's a possibility that somebody else might evaluate her looks, suddenly those opinions are better left unheard. The irony is almost too perfect. But anyways, okay, so in this clip, it's the very beginning and Pearl is introducing her co-host. And by the way, the pig's got lipstick on. She did her makeup. She never does her makeup or takes care of herself or brushes her hair, anything. But suddenly when she's talking to the Looksmaxer, of course, she wants to look her best. So she's got makeup on for the first time that I've ever seen. She looks great. I'll give her that. But they're talking about recently Clavicular doing an interview where I guess it got a little sassy and he walked off. So they're already starting off with the glazing and they're like, oh, Clavicular, can we normalize like walking off in interviews? Like basically saying like, oh, that was so badass. Like that was so cool how you walked off.
This is Doug MPA, by the way. He's my co-host.
Sweet. Okay.
So,
Go ahead.
before you say anything, Clavicular, I just want to say, can we normalize walking off of interviews? Honestly, because a person like you, your star is rising, your time is important, and all these people try to ambush you. I hope that what you're doing becomes a normal trend, because the one thing that you can't get back is time. Let's normalize walking off of interviews where people are wasting your time.
Let's normalize having questions prepared for interviews. How about that? Let's normalize not wasting people's time with a bunch of dead air and awkward silence and just like twiddling your thumbs. I don't even have much respect for Clavicular, and even I found this incredibly disrespectful to just sit there with no questions, like just sitting there with a bunch of like so awkward.
I would say let's not normalize it, because people are just going to try to clip farm, and an interviewer who is being completely genuine might be giving a completely straight and on the arrow thing, but people see me doing it and they might just be like, oh, I'm gonna be like Clav and blow up in this guy's face, when there's really no reason for that. So I would say that I'm quite genuine when I go in with my intentions. So anytime I've ever walked off of an interview, it's because of the person doing some shady shit, right? So like that would just become a viral trend for people to force and kind of clip farm. So I've even influenced people like Donald Trump. He kind of copied my walking off the interview a couple times. So it's going big.
Yeah, but the guys that do it to you are in such bad faith. Like, I saw the one in Israel. That was terrible. We need more people to walk off like that, because they do that to you. Like, you'll come onto an interview in good faith, and they'll just, like, do all these questions that you didn't ask for,
Holy glaze. Holy glaze. You'll come out of this interview in good faith and they'll like do all these questions that you didn't ask for. Oh, God forbid somebody do all these questions that nobody asked. Like, that's the whole point of the interview, Pearl. Like, is to ask questions that they didn't ask for. First of all, you sound illiterate, like an idiot. The way you phrased that was ridiculous. But since when do we have to get questions approved? For you, I would just say have any questions ready. But that's the whole point of journalism. That's so ridiculous. This is such an idiotic take.
Yeah, I've never done an interview in bad faith whatsoever. I would say that the only time I've even kind of went close to that is the first Piers Morgan interview. I knew it was going to be hostile, so I was sort of like prepared with a little bit of opposition research. But I've never done that before. I've never looked into a reporter before doing an interview. I've never really had too much of a question to their political beliefs, because it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. Why do you think they keep trying to make you political when you keep saying you're not?
First of all, you're an idiot. Whether he says he's not political, like, it doesn't matter what he says, he is political. Not only has he made political statements before about Israel, this and that, that doesn't matter. The fact that his presence online is shaping, mainstream culture now with language, different trends, Looksmaxing, his involvement in that is political. He may not be a traditional political commentator, but he is absolutely a cultural political influencer. Like, there's no doubt, there's no denying that. Like, Pearl is so dumb. She thinks politics is reduced down to like discussing elections. That's what she thinks like being political means. Like whether you're discussing politics or legislation or one political party or another, that to her is political. But politics is also about power, social hierarchy, gender roles, race, status, etc. Doesn't matter. But even when you look at his entire brand, it's about promoting looks or worldview rather, where people are ranked on how attractive they are, what their face ratio is, appearance, dominance, race, all this stuff, right? He is teaching young people, young men specifically, what makes a man valuable, how women should be treated, who is fit to lead, who is fit to do what in society. All of these things are inherently political. Even Looksmaxing itself is a political or ideological judgment.
It's just a misunderstanding of a new thing. And like when something is becoming so big amongst Generation Z, and really far beyond that, it extends to almost every generation. Like a lot of people are panicking. They're saying, you know, is this an okay belief for the media to push? Is this dangerous? Is this harmful? So they're just kind of, try to keep answering these questions when I've made it extremely clear that Looksmaxing is self-improvement and really nothing further.
I don't have a problem with that, by the way. Like the whole Looksmaxing and how he's now framing it as self-improvement. I like that message. I like the message of like Looksmaxing as a whole, being healthy, self-improvement, going to the gym, all this stuff. I think it's a positive message. I think when it gets a little dangerous, and I understand that his message has kind of shifted. This isn't like necessarily what it is anymore. I felt like at the beginning it was a little bit more so him going to any extreme. I guess what I'm trying to say is that his views in the past were a lot more concerning to me. And I think that's kind of understandable because when you're younger and going through these awkward phases or periods where we feel insecure about ourselves, we're probably a lot more vulnerable and more likely to go through these extreme lengths just to feel attractive. That's why I think promoting some of those extremes to a young audience that looks up to you can be genuinely dangerous. If the message were simply go to the gym, take care of yourself, wear makeup if you want, improve your style or whatever, I don't think it would be nearly as concerning. But some of the stuff he used to promote went way beyond normal self-improvement. Now, though it seems he may have reeled all of that in, I don't know how much of that comes with age, experience, maturity, or even just him trying to become more mainstream, but there's definitely been a noticeable shift. Even when you look at some of the older clips of him where he used to talk pretty casually about doing drugs as if it were no big deal, he would also say some really crazy, unhinged things about women, calling them malformed or subhuman.
Some people think that like Sydney Sweeney is extremely attractive. I would say that she's pretty malformed. She's really not that much of a looker in her face. Now
he's even backed away from that, and he's starting to refuse to rate women altogether.
What would you rate her?
I don't really like to do the pop culture ratings anymore. Just like something that.
So while I wouldn't necessarily say this new era of Clavicular is pushing an overwhelmingly positive message, I do think some of his more recent stuff, not all, but some of it, and some of his new messaging now is significantly better and far less dangerous than how completely insane and unhinged his earlier content was. That's all I'm trying to say, and I hope that he continues along this path even though it still has its problems, but it's far better than the bone smashing, promoting meth to kids, injecting yourself with crazy unknown substances, etc. Which is besides the point, but I just want to let people know, like, I'm not coming after him for the Looksmaxing specifically. I'm not coming after him for anything in this video at all, but when I talk about him in general, typically it's about the other things that he has done. Okay, so now she's bringing up some random ass procedure, palate expansion, which is actually not that random. It's just random that she brought it up out of all things, because palate expansion is I had palate expansion, when I was like in middle school. It's like so common when you're getting your braces in. It's like a little thing on the roof of your mouth. You twist it with a key, your teeth spread, It creates a massive gap. You look like literally SpongeBob. My parents were calling me SpongeBob and I got bullied in my own household for it. But then you have to have braces to like put them all together. The braces with the rubber bands to squeeze your teeth back together. Best thing I ever did. I'm grateful all the time to my dad for paying for my braces. So the fact that she's bringing up like this whole palate, like, what do you think about palate expansion? It's just so random, and it shows like she doesn't have a single question prepared. You're bringing up some like run-of-the-mill fucking orthodontic procedure, and then she's gonna somehow find a way. I know you're like, how can you possibly find a way to bash women when you're talking about palate expansion? But don't worry, she's going to find a way. She's going to bash women while asking what a palate expansion, or if he recommends it. If he recommends, like he's some doctor, right? Or plastic surgeon. Do you recommend these things? Do you recommend these procedures? How the fuck does he know, dude? He's a 20-year-old kid that has no experience. Like, he knows a lot about plastic surgery, but he's not a surgeon or an orthodontist.
Yeah, well, you know what I wanted to ask you about? What do you think about palate expansion? Is that something you recommend for most people that have like deformed? I've seen
For most people.
the pictures of the twins where the one had an expanded palate and one didn't. You know what I'm talking about? You have
Yeah. So palate expanders, you know, all those type of orthodontic appliances are really good, but there's a little bit of nuance that you have to understand that what's possible is going to differ drastically based on how far into your development you are. And, you know, the other problem with palate expanders is people don't realize it's not a one and done thing. You're going to expand your palate, and then there's going to be a huge gap in your front teeth, and you're going to require braces after the fact. So it's a very long process.
Really? Yeah, I've thought about doing it because I have TMJ. I was curious.
You thought about palate expansion? Because let me even look up and see if palate expansion is such a random thing when you have TMJ. I've never heard of anybody wanting palate expansion for TMJ. Usually you do Botox or something like that in your jaw, like your masseters, but palate expansion for TMJ? Hold on. Okay, no, as I expected. Okay, a palate expander is generally not a proven standard or cure for TMJ. And then this other article says like it can sometimes help TMJ indirectly, but is not like a standard. Or so she doesn't even know what the fuck she's talking about. She probably heard him talking about Looksmaxing, talking about, you know, palate expanders, and now she doesn't have a question prepared. So she's like, what about palate expanders? Like, I thought about doing that. Like, no, you didn't, Pearl. You don't even fucking wear makeup half of the time. Why don't you start with that, or start with a tan? Start with something small. Why are you jumping to a palate expander for TMJ? The most ridiculous shit I've ever heard. But of course, like, this is what happens when you're nervous and there's dead air and you don't have questions prepared. You say stupid shit to fill in the gaps because it's so awkward. So now she's saying like, look at how awkward this gets. Watch.
I don't know. That's kind of the same conclusion I came to, is it was too long.
Well, it doesn't really look like your palate is that narrow, quite honestly.
Okay, well, maybe.
What? Just glitches out because Pick Me Pearl Davis finally got what she perceives to be a compliment from a man. He didn't even compliment her. He was just like, your palate doesn't seem to be that narrow. And she's like, glitches out like a bumbling fool because she's a pick me. Like, dude, and then she's going to blame it on after this that he's using big words that she doesn't understand. She's just a girl. How could she possibly understand these big words he's using? First of all, listen, I'm going to just back this up a little bit because she's about to say that. Listen to this whole conversation and let me know in the comments if there are any big words that you don't understand, okay? That you don't understand what these mean, because like she's going to be like, "Oh, these are like big words. That's why I was laughing." No, she's laughing cuz she's glitching out because she got a compliment and she's a pick me ass bitch.
It's a very long process.
Really? Yeah, I've thought about doing it because I have TMJ. I was curious. I don't know. That's kind of the same conclusion I came to, is it was too long.
Well, it doesn't really look like your palate is that narrow, quite honestly.
Okay, well, maybe.
And I wanted to go back into.
Do you have your
this
third
and-
molars?
Sorry, Doug, go ahead.
Do you have?
I wanted. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Claire.
Do you have your third molar still?
I'm sorry. Sometimes you use very big words, and I don't know what they mean.
What big words? Molars? You said palate. You have to know what palate means. Well, what big words? He didn't use any big words. He just said, do you have your molars? Do you not know what a molar is, Pearl? You don't know what a molar is?
No, I don't.
Like your wisdom teeth.
No, I got those out.
Interesting.
What is going on here?
Older. But I've always had like it clicks.
Okay.
Or like sometimes. So I've thought about doing that, but it seems honestly when I go into a doctor's office and there's too many women, I assume it's a waste of money. And there's
Why?
just been too many.
See, when I go to an office and there's too many women, I assume that's a waste of money. It makes no sense. Everything goes to bash women, bash women, bash women. Women are evil. Women are the worst. Women are like always out to get you. Like she is such a pick me. Like people call her misogynistic, but I don't even think she is truly misogynistic. I think she's just a pathetic pick me ass bitch. She's single. Not married, no kid, nothing, right? Which is perfectly fine. But yet this is the same woman that bashes other women who don't have these things, that aren't traditional, all this shit. So she's just like, I wanted to call her subhuman because that's what Clavicular calls people, like subhuman. But I'm glad that Clavicular is giving her some pushback, you know, like she's trying to get his attention. She's trying to like side with him on everything, glaze the living shit out of him. And he's asking her like, why? Why? Like, that's interesting. Listen to this interaction.
Honestly, when I go into a doctor's office and there's too many women, I assume it's a waste of money. And there's
Why?
just been too many. Because I find that if men buy things, they like do research, and usually, like, we just tend to spend our money on nothing.
What?
So, I don't know. I'm not saying that's the case for all of the palette expansion, but it's made me kind of hesitant for the ones that I looked at.
So you're saying like the clientele, or if it's a lot of?
She doesn't know what she's saying. Sorry, I keep pausing this, but there's just like so much I want you to pay attention to. So she's saying like, oh, I assume it's a waste of money, but that's not the case for all palette expansion because she wants to exclude men. Like, oh, I assume it's a waste of money when it's full of women, but that's not the case for men. Like, that's not the case for all palette expansion. But what she's really trying to say is like, don't think I'm trying to bash men. I'm only bashing women here. She's so pathetic. Listen to this interaction again. She is only saying that's not the case for all palette expansion because she is excluding only men. That is why she's saying that. It's so fucking pick me and pathetic.
Because I find that if men buy things, they like do research, and usually, like, we just tend to spend our money on nothing. So, I don't know. I'm not saying that's the case for all of the palette expansion.
His face.
But it's made me kind of hesitant for the ones that I looked at.
So you're saying like the clientele, or if it's a lot of?
Well, it's so expensive, and I'm not sure if it'll work.
Interesting.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So first she was looking into it. Then she says she came to the same conclusion he did, that it was too long. Then she said there were too many women. She figured it was a waste of money. And now it's that it's too expensive. This girl doesn't know what she's talking about. She literally has no clue what she's talking about. She's just yapping. She doesn't even realize how stupid she sounds. But Clavicular is like, oh, interesting. Like she gave 12 different excuses. Now it's that it's too expensive and she doesn't know if it'll work. This is an orthodontic procedure that has been done for years, since before I was little. Like I had it done in like 6th grade or something. It rips apart the roof of your mouth. What do you mean you don't know if it'll work? Okay, now we're just gonna fast forward because they're so incredibly boring and people in the chat are complaining. By the way, people in Clavicular's chat are extremely racist. Because this guy's black and they're like typing out the ape emoji and just being super racist to him, which I'm not a fan of course, but they are roasting Pearl. So I do love that. But she starts bringing up all these photos of different people, asking Clavicular to rate them. And she's asking him, are they cooked? Are they cooked? Bitch, you're cooked. She has a lot of nerve trying to humiliate people on the internet, whatever, by the way they look. But anyways, now they're naming Zendaya. She even brings up a picture of Sydney Sweeney and Jenna Ortega, I think is her name. I'm not sure, but bringing up these beautiful, stunning women and saying that they're mid, okay? And look at Clavicular's face. He's getting so annoyed. And Clavicular refuses to rate these women because it's so like, this is so 10 years ago. Like, Pearl, you're a 30-something-year-old woman. What are you doing still rating people? This is so childish. But anyways, they're like bringing up these stunning, like, women who are exponentially hotter than Pearl. And she's like saying that they're mid. Like, granted, I don't understand the hype around Zendaya, but aside from that, like, these women, I know they're hotter than I am. I know Zendaya is far more beautiful than I am, so I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, she's mid. Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't understand people saying that she's like the most beautiful woman on the planet. I don't think that, but I definitely wouldn't call her mid, and I definitely wouldn't call these other women that they're bringing photos of on the screen. I wouldn't call any of them mid. Look at Clavicular's face. He's so annoyed right now.
Pearl and I came up with this thing where we're in Hollywood, we're in the age of the mids, especially when it comes to women. I grew up in the 90s, so we had the bombshell supermodels. I don't know how you feel about them, but if you look at the top 20 most beautiful women in Hollywood, all three of us would cringe. How do you feel about the modern beauty standard in Hollywood right now? Because I mean, Zendaya, Jenna Ortega. I mean, it wasn't like this when I was young. Believe me, they're just mids all over the place. Could you explain the age of the mids a little better?
Well, I said because women, I feel like women.
Well, I'd say that they're certainly pretty good looking. Those examples, but it just preferences have changed, right? And I would say that the biggest change in looks. I would say she's quite good looking, but the biggest change
this girl Pearl's ready to play this game, right? Like, let's bash women game. Like, brings up photos of all these women, wants him to roast them and say they're cooked, say they're mid, and he's like, yeah, I would certainly say she's good looking because she is. Look at this girl, she's beautiful. And Pearl, you have the audacious, like, you have a lot of nerve, girl, a lot of nerve, looking like that, looking like a wet sponge, bringing up pictures of Jenna Ortega, of Wednesday Addams. That's what I know her as, okay? Miss Wednesday Addams, you have no business judging her looking like that.
Is really about pornography, right? Not so much about Hollywood. Pornography has influenced people to be more so tailored around finding a girl with super large breasts and, a super big ass.
Never thought I'd agree with Clavicular. Never thought I'd agree.
Rather than a good model-looking face, right?
Well, you think they're as pretty as like the beauties of the past, like Megan Fox?
Pearl has the nerve to bring up a photo of Sydney Sweeney. Bring up all these girls. You think these girls are like as hot as the girls from the past? Yeah. Sydney Sweeney? Bitch, yeah. What do you mean? To me, Sydney Sweeney is like stunning. Are you kidding me? Anybody who says she's not is a liar, is a dead liar.
Well, it's just so it's a different thing entirely, right? When you compare like the 90s Victoria's Secret models to actors, it's like it's just a different field entirely. Being a model is all about looking as good as possible walking down a runway, where being an actor, you actually have to have some skills to
Yes.
Well, I think in the modern day, they've really tried to push women whose beauty is tailored towards women's standards and not men's standards. I think you'd probably think that there's a objective standard, but in media, they've been really, from what I've noticed, they've been really trying to push a beauty that's affable to women and not men.
If that were the case in modeling, then I would say that argument has a bit more of a backbone. But
guys, please let me know right now, because if the men on this channel who watch this channel do not think Sydney Sweeney and Megan Fox, okay? Granted, Megan Fox is a little bit of a major weirdo, okay? I give you that. She's weird. But you cannot say she's not beautiful or hot or sexy or good looking, whatever. These are stunning women, you guys. If that is not up to men's standards or like men's standards of beauty, I'm just lost. I am so lost.
Acting is merit based as well, and it really is about someone's talent. So I wouldn't attribute all of these castings to like trying to push some different narrative. I would say that you have to kind of give the actors a little bit more credit than that they did a good job, or they're fit for the roles that they have. I would more so look at the trends of the modeling and high fashion industry.
Again, Clavicular looking like a sane, normal person is crazy. Now look at this, dead air. No questions prepared, nothing ready to go.
As GLP-1s are getting rid of the body positivity movement and a certain level of modeling.
This comment. Actors were merit based in Hollywood. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Is she okay? Like, she interrupts this co-host is doing, granted, he's doing an awful job too, but he is doing all of the work here. She's not asking any questions. He is asking all of the questions in this interview. And this is supposed to be her channel, the Pearl Show or whatever the hell. It's supposed to be her channel. And he's asking all the questions, her co-host. And then she has the nerve to interrupt him. Like, she doesn't know when, like, there's no social awareness here with her. Like, she interrupts with the most ridiculous, out of place laughs for no reason. Nobody knows what she's talking about, mumbles and like giggles to herself. Like, it's so awkward. It's so awkward. And like, finally, like, this awkward silence was killed by her co-host finally starting to ask a question. And then she like interrupts with this weird laugh, like out of place, random laugh.
Harvey Weinstein, is that the
They're just kidding. They're just kidding.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's just a lot of people say that, during HW's time, he kept a certain level of looks out of Hollywood, and ever since that went away, now we have these mids. But just a theory floating around.
Somebody in the comments said, bro, this is so unprofessional. I agree.
Theory floating around.
Okay.
But
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, so what else did you have?
Doug, were you asking about GLP-1s or no?
Pearl, why don't you ask a question? Why don't you do any work at all, you dumb bitch? Instead of just sitting there all day bashing women, why don't you like do a little bit of work and put some questions together prior to getting on camera? Oh my God. And then she's like not even she's reading her chat the whole time. What are you doing? You are interviewing somebody. Be present. You should be looking at him, talking with him, having a conversation, but she's reading her chat. This is so weird.
I was going to say, GLP-1s are relatively new. A lot of people see that as like the lazy way. So if you said that someone's going to talk to you and they have a bunch of weight on them. If they were to say they would want to take a GLP-1, would you recommend that, or would you recommend the good old-fashioned hard work way?
Well, hard work isn't really something that I would give any points towards, right? There's no benefit to working hard when it's completely unnecessary. The only thing that matters is the ends, not the means, in my opinion, when it comes to Looksmaxing. So you should try to strive for efficiency, not hard work.
Yeah, because there's certain people where they are so big, it's like, if you want to really get this started, it's a GLP-1 instead of trying to, so I can see that. It's just, GLP-1s are just so relatively new, and I think that once they have a generic version of a GLP-1, I mean, everybody's going to be on it. I don't know if it's going to make a big dent in America's fat problem, but anything that you can make.
A generic version of the GLP-1?
As it's easily accessible everywhere.
Well, it's kind of
like a prescription.
it's kind of, so you just mean an over-the-counter one, because the generic version of the drug would be Ozempic, for example, or tirzepatide, and then the branded pharmaceutical version would be Manjaro, so that already exists.
Okay, you know more about this than I do. So
Okay, you know what?
okay, you know more about this than I do. So
Hello?
Do you think it'll actually impact the obesity rate in America? GLP-1s.
What a stupid question. You have Clavicular on, and granted, if you like, whether you like him or not, there are so many interesting questions. You have to admit he's a polarizing figure, and there are so many interesting questions she could have asked him. She obviously likes him, so she could have asked a lot of interesting questions. But like these stupid, ridiculous, like, do you think it's actually going to impact? Come on, get it together.
Do you think it'll actually impact the obesity rate in America? GLP-1s.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
There's been a significant decrease since the popularization of GLP-1s. I think right now about 15% of Americans are currently taking a GLP-1. That's last I checked, and it's probably even more now. So its effect on the obesity rate has already been significant.
What are looksmaxing trends that most people don't know, that are maybe very effective but most people don't know about?
She thought she'd kill with that question.
or there's some kind of stigma around with that too.
Looksmaxing trends? What do you mean?
Procedures, I don't know. Procedures, like things you
Just
recommend.
Looksmaxes?
Okay, whatever. So then he goes into like this Looksmaxing trend, different supplements you can take to make yourself a little bit tanner, whatever. We've all seen those, or maybe not everybody, but there's this supplement you can take that makes you look like a little bit more tan. But the people who take it always look so orange. I used to have a friend, she used to take that supplement, and it's crazy. Okay, it doesn't look good, but it can look good on some people. That's not the point. So the question she asked him was, what are some Looksmaxing trends that people don't know about or whatever? Now I'm gonna fast forward it because it's all incredibly awkward and annoying. So let's just fast forward it to the next portion where they go off into some like almost acting like they're not interviewing somebody, like having a conversation amongst themselves, which is so incredibly awkward. Not only awkward, but rude. Like I said, never thought I'd be defending Clavicular, but then like they ask him the same thing again afterwards. This is so weird.
Mm-hmm. Remember the thing we talked about where, because on our side of the internet, there's different men have different forms of what they consider achievement. So you have the guy who earns millions of dollars and has this beautiful trophy wife, and he feels like he's achieved, but then he's let himself go. Then you have a guy who's really good looking, barely has anything, smashes his wife, and that guy's like, oh yeah, I've achieved more than you because I smashed your wife.
Yeah.
Right.
What are the other Looksmaxing advice that you have that most people don't know?
And look at his face. Look at his face. Look, I'm gonna rewind it for just a second. Look at his face. He's like, what is happening right now?
What are the other Looksmaxing
Oh my God, so
advice
awkward.
that you have that most people don't know?
She just asked that. You just asked that 2 seconds ago. Do you have amnesia? Like, what is happening right now?
You said the first one was the supplement. What else?
I would say that, that's just something I could talk about for hours. Really, there's so many different Looksmaxes that are not in the mainstream yet, because people think that Looksmaxing is just as surface level as going to the gym, and while that's a part of it, certainly, Looksmaxing includes pharmacology. It includes fitness. It includes all these different areas. So to become a master, sort of a jack of all trades, Looksmaxer, you have to do like years and years of research. So I would say people are like looking at only the tip of the iceberg with what's available publicly on TikTok. It's taken me quite literally years to come to this level of knowledge.
It's funny, like what he's saying doesn't even faze me. It doesn't even sound crazy to me at all because obviously I'm a girl, so I know about these like Looksmaxing things before Looksmaxing was even a thing, right? But also because I worked in plastic surgery for so many years and he knows what he's talking about. He knows about a lot of procedures, different supplements, and all this stuff, right? So I'm not gonna knock him for any of that. I also don't agree with the double standard that, you know, it's normalized for women to Looksmax and somehow men get hated on for the same thing. I'm not gonna like judge it. Like I personally wouldn't date a guy who is super into Looksmaxing, was like into all these things, but I also don't think it's fair to judge men or young men who are. I think once you're past a certain age and married with kids, it's a little weird. Like once you're past 30, I think you need to like chill out, like maybe get a job and focus on other shit. But when you're a young guy trying to go out there and get laid and hook up with all these girls, and I can see why your looks would matter a little bit more or a lot more rather than when you're older and it's like, okay, now you should be in a relationship and be secure within yourself and maybe out there making money rather than focus on your looks. But it's crazy that like I understand what he's talking about so clearly, so easily. And Pearl is like struggling. Like, what is a Looksmaxing? Like, bitch, what do you mean, dude? Like, this cannot be your only questions. This is ridiculous.
Well, what's one you would recommend people look into that you've never really been asked in an interview before? Because I notice you always get asked about like the hammer and stuff.
And I want to be different. I don't want to be like other girls. And like the reason why she is afraid to ask about like the bone smashing or the hammer or whatever is because recently he was on an interview with this other girl and he didn't snap or get angry, but he was saying, that's why I said earlier, like he doesn't like to be asked about that because he said, I have so much other information to offer when it comes to Looksmaxing and people always get caught up on the bone smashing. So I'm not going to die on that hill, basically. Like I'm willing to like retract that and give that up if you guys will just listen to like the other advice I have, which I thought was fair.
Yeah, I mean, you do have a few controversial opinions. One of them, I remember seeing a video of you, I think it was a hammer, and you were physically chiseling your face. What was that?
That's always one that gets brought up because it's just a headliner. It's what the hell's going on. It just drives clicks and views. But frankly, it's not a hill that I'm willing to die on because if it means that all my other advice is going to get just sort of memeified and ignored because it's just like this one thing people have so much attention to. And I talked about this on Hannity the other day. It's just really going to be responsible for a super small percentage of your results, but I've acknowledged it in the past, right? It's not like the main Looksmax. Like I said before, lean maxing is going to give you 70% of what you could achieve. Coloring is going to be another huge boost. If I only had to talk about things like that, for the rest of my time on this planet, then so be it. I don't really think people would be missing out on a huge amount by not talking about bone smashing. So it's really just something that all interviewers are like, what the hell is going on? What is this? But it's never been the main, suggestion of mine. So, if you don't like bone smashing, if it's too crazy to you, then fine. I'm not going to argue with you.
So he doesn't really like to be asked about the bone smashing at all. So that's why Pearl's like, I don't want to ask you about like the bone smashing. I know you always get asked about that because she obviously saw that interview and she's such a pick-me. So she's like, I don't want to ask about that because she doesn't want to make him mad. Like she's so like, she walks on eggshells. She tiptoes around these men and it's so pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic.
You always say that there's more to it. And so
that's just going to be super case dependent, right? So that's why I like doing the image consulting because it allows you to actually analyze people's facial phalos rather than just giving a super generic advice. Looksmaxing is not necessarily something that's super generic other than like all these basic principles that those are the ones that are already known. All the super nuanced stuff that it's a little bit more gate kept or whatever is going to be case dependent. So I wouldn't want to make just a generic statement.
Okay, we're in the home stretch here, you guys. So sorry, this is like so long. But now we're getting to the point where like she's bringing up different people and asking him if they're chopped. And it's just like, it's so childish. And I love that even Clavicular isn't feeding into this. Like, yeah, I think he ends up calling this guy chopped because it's a little obvious, but he isn't playing into any of her other antics. Like when she was bringing up these women and celebrities and all these arguably beautiful girls, he's like, I don't really want to do that. Like, he didn't want to rate them. He told her, I don't really want to like rate these girls, because she was starting to ask him to like rate these women, and he was like, no, thank you.
Is this guy here chopped? Is he too cooked? Or no?
Well, without hair, you really have to have a top percentile face to compete. So yeah, absolutely.
What do you think about hair transplants? Do you think those are effective?
One of the best surgeries, because if you have no hair, a lot of the times you have no life, is a common saying from St. Hamoudi. So I think that's pretty accurate. And I said this on Hannity the other day. A lot of the primetime hosts throughout all of media, whether it be liberal or conservative, have hair, right? It's a really good health and youth indicator, and it contributes a lot to your aesthetics.
Pearl doesn't have hair.
Anya Taylor-Joy, Pearl, because this girl, what Clavicular was talking about, when you see someone's face and you just have this kind of feeling, there's no person where that's more evident than her. And I just want to know, why do I get this feeling about her face? Is it because her eyes are so wide apart? Like, I don't...
Click on the image of that's her in the red dress, one column down. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the
Yeah.
circle.
So that would be about the ESR ratio, right? So, and the intercanthal distance. So her eyes, the distance between her pupils relative to the distance between her cheekbones, they're a little bit wide set, and the medial canthus, which is this little part right here at the ends of your eyes, that is supposed to be a certain distance apart, and it's too wide as well. So yeah, it would be that ratio, or the combination of those two.
What would you rate her?
I don't really like to do the pop culture ratings anymore. Just like something that...
Pearl's like 15. Dude, you're such a child. Like, this isn't how grown women, like, what would you rate her? It's just like so pick me and like cringe. It's cringe. Anyways, last question, you guys. So I'm just going to fast forward to the end because it's just so incredibly painful to watch. But they're asking yet, like I said, they have no questions prepared, nothing ready for this interview. It's so embarrassing. All you keep seeing is the light reflecting on Pearl's face. So you can see like she's opening up tabs, she's closing tabs, she's doing things on her computer, not even paying attention to this interview that she's conducting. And look at Clap. Like, I never in a million years thought I would side with and defend Clavicular. Not that like there's any beef or like he's asking me to defend him or whatever, but not that I would be like agreeing with his chat. Everyone in his chat's like, what is going on? This is so weird and awkward. But like, he is sitting there, professional, giving her his undivided attention, has his hands by his side, not fiddling around on his mouse, on his computer, opening up tabs, not reading the chat, not doing any, like a couple of times when there's like an awkward silence, he like glances over at the chat because it's just so like, what else is he supposed to do? But she is on her computer the entire time. I could understand if maybe she's looking up some questions to ask him or getting questions from her chat to ask him, but she's not asking anything. She's just fucking around on her computer, and her co-host is the one asking all the questions. And then when she does ask a question, it's the same question she's already asked like 3 times. Pearl needs to stay away from interviews if this is how she conducts herself, because this is so rude. Like, this is really, really rude for any guest. And if I would never be on Pearl's show, but if I was like red pilled and I was like thinking about going on somebody's show and I saw this, I would never go on Pearl's show, because this is rude. This is how you treat your guests. make them sit in awkward silence and not ask them the same questions, stupid ass questions, not have anything prepared. Talk about a waste of time. She wants to like shit on people for asking questions and the way they conduct interviews. Like at the beginning of this interview, she was like shitting on these other interviewers that were not asking questions that he wanted to be asked or whatever. This is a horrible interview. Maybe don't like shit on other interviewers when you're the shittiest interviewer of all time.
We have a super chat, Clab. I'm Sean from Houston, Texas. Proud of you, boy. At your age, real friends are as hard to find as a good girl. Haters. I'm 33. I get it. If you're ever in Houston, you've got a place to stay and you've got a friend from not plays one.
What is the most invasive
His reaction.
procedure you've seen someone go to improve their looks? Where you're like, bro, come on. Was there something, like you said that the orbital thing was pretty brutal, but what's the worst thing that someone has gone through to improve their looks that you've heard?
I would say that that's probably the most invasive surgery that you could get. That and Lafort 3. But all right, I do have to hop onto another podcast in about 10 minutes. So I appreciate you guys for having me. So I'm gonna run, but I will talk to you guys soon again, hopefully. All right.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Clab.
Thank you. All right. Goodbye.
Bye.
Oh shit.
Like I said, you guys, just the most brutally awkward thing I've ever seen. And then when her co-host finally does get around to asking a question, she interrupts him.
I've always hoped that one day we can get past that whole name brand all over everything trend, but we're still in it years later.
Well,
is this a juice bird question? Like, sorry, keep going.
Go ahead, Todd.
what I wasn't. Yeah.
I was talking about how the
With these weird, unexplained laughs, just like out of nowhere, random giggles. Nobody knows what she's laughing at. And then when he asks her a question to like get in on the joke, to like try to understand what she's saying, she's just like, oh, they're just joking. They're just like, okay, that's rude. Like, explain the joke to your guests so they don't think they're the ones being laughed at. And just like I said, like the fact that she had no questions prepared, it's so wild. And she has the nerve to bash women, to rate them, say they're 2s or 4s or whatever, and say that they're not good looking, all this stuff. And then her co-host revealed that there are some opinions of people that hurt Pearl's feelings, or some opinions she wasn't meant to hear or whatever. So I just think like Pearl's got a lot of nerve, you know? She has a lot of nerve talking shit about interviewers, about the way they conduct their interviews, and then she's like the shittiest interviewer of all time. And then she's rating women. Meanwhile, she looks like a squished roach. She looks awful all the time. And then on the other hand, she never wants to be rated. Meanwhile, she spends half her airtime rating other people. And even like Clavicular's chat was saying, this is so unprofessional. It was just incredibly unprofessional. And like I said, never in a million years did I think I would be sitting here defending Clavicular, and did I think he would be the sane one on screen? Never. And trust me, like he still has his faults. But I just had to show you this because like, Pearl, every time she's on screen, she's a mess. Whether she's debating somebody, interviewing somebody, she's just constantly acting a fool. I don't even know how she became such a like big streamer or big creator, because she's awful. She's absolutely awful. Anyways, you guys, let me know what you thought about this. I thought it was pretty funny, but let me know if you guys agree. Please like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care.